Hey, hello again. Sorry for the interruption in service earlier on. That used to happen in the days of kind of very early days of television and radio and things that that stuff would break, and then you'd have to watch. They used to have it in the afternoons. I remember in the afternoons on television when I was a kid. There wouldn't be very much on, but there'd be a thing on which was called the Potter's Wheel, which was a bloke making a vase from some clay and sort of modelling it. And he'd be turning this turntable with his foot, sort of pumping a thing, making it go round. Mm-hmm. And that was the highlight of afternoon telly when I was young. Oh,
rant.
Those were the days. A mini rant. I had a big rant at the beginning in part one. And sorry that we had to, as I say, once more, sorry that we had to disappear rather rapidly because the picture here was kind of getting a bit jerky, and I just wasn't sure whether it was going out properly in the way it should, because on Saturday night everybody watches Netflix and Amazon and that kind of thing, and we're competing with all that stuff in trying to send our signal out to you. So many apologies for that, and thank you for joining us again.
Mm-hmm. So we were talking about contrarianism.
We were, and that seems like a good place to sort of kick off right now, if you will, because for most of us actually we well, not entirely. We certainly do the things that society expects, and we go to school and we get the job and all that kind of thing. In the sort of teenage years, a lot of people rebel against the parents, certainly. So there is an element of that. But then when the chips are down, and hello, Helen, thank you for joining us this evening. It's good to see you. We're talking about contrarianism and how many people, which a rude and insulting person might call them sheeple, but that would be quite offensive. So it wouldn't be something that it wouldn't be an expression that I would use.
Okay.
It's not on, is it? But people who conform, who do what society expects, they're not going to have wildly exciting lives, are they? They're going to sort of get up every morning at 9 o'clock, let's face it, go into the office and with a few sleep breaks until 5 o'clock on the Friday, and then in the weekend, I think we touched on this idea the other day, in the weekend, whoop whoop for a couple of hours, but mostly tired, and then it all starts again the following week, and you've got a holiday to look forward to for 1 or 2 weeks of the year. Hello, Phil. Thank you for joining us. We're just talking about, being different.
Contrarian.
Contrarian is a good way to put it, but, some of these contrarian fellas have a lot of fun. I mean, the rock stars and the people on television and all that kind of thing, they have a kind of... Do you think life is better for them?
Well, I don't know. In my personal experience, contrarianism, the first... Well, I've always been a free spirit. I don't fall into just a dogma. So when it comes to decision making, I don't precisely go for contrarian. I just make an assessment of what needs doing and what would be the best choice, and then just take a decision. Whether it's contrarian or not, that's completely independent to my thought.
That's good. Well, that in a sense, free-spiritedness is perhaps a better way of describing it, because the contrarian, and I have to admit to you that I am a Capricorn. Irma knows, I'm admitting to you that I'm a Capricorn, and we're kind of quite we will kind of, you put a rope around our necks or something, we pull the other way, and it's quite difficult to take a Capricorn for a walk, isn't it? Because they just sort of wander off.
Yeah.
Oh, hello, Pritam. Thank you for joining us this evening. We're talking about having got all the stuff off my chest that I needed to get off. We're kind of talking about something quite sensible now. We're talking about not necessarily being in step with everybody else, and to an extent being independent and sort of doing your own thing.
Yeah, but I think we need people like you in terms of when it comes to policies, and when you hear things in the news in terms of government and all this stuff. Like at the beginning of the coronavirus pandemic stuff, you were very contrarian in many of the things that and all what the government was giving us as guidelines, and you went, no, that's wrong. And I thought, well, why not? And now you prove it. And you were right.
It's why we have television. We could see things going on in Italy, and the government seemed to have their eyes shut and be in denial about it. And it's not just me. We've got a couple of friends as well, very good friends who are doing it. There's our friend Fiona, our friend Colin. They were kind of in the same camp as me. And so I started all these self-distancing and isolating things and everything about a fortnight before everybody else. Because I thought, whoa, I don't want this. And so that was probably not such a bad thing. But a friend of mine who's a very long established and great radio DJ was going, I'm going to have my 78th birthday party as usual. I don't think he's quite that old, but you know, he was going to carry on life as normal. He's gone very quiet now. He still plays his records,
He was a big fallout.
his foray into the world of biosciences is quite short-lived. Hello, Kevin. It's so nice to have you on board this evening, and thank you for joining us for our little thing. You missed a big old rant at the beginning, but I can't repeat it because I just got myself into such a tiz about the lack of testing here in the UK and the lack of resources going on to our hospital staff. And that is something that I think we should all be increasingly concerned about. The people in the front row who are doing a good job. Colin, hello, it's lovely to have you on board. We were just talking about you. So I suppose I've got to repeat all that now, haven't I, really? Because otherwise we'll get into a heck of a trouble, because we told the whole world, really, what a sensible fella you were to pick up early on how severe this corona thing was, when everybody else was out partying and going to the barbecues. Not that we do many barbecues in February, but you know what I mean. You and I both, and another couple of friends of ours, took this kind of very seriously indeed, and so we've we didn't go around all the shops stocking up on all the loo rolls, but we just kind of started living our lives a bit more sensibly.
Yeah, that's right. And I must say, I was one of the first ones saying, you're exaggerating, it's not going to be that bad. And then you're going and working on those numbers and spreadsheets, and I thought, a bit obsessive, but no, he was correct.
And I'll tell you a little secret, actually, to get people to do the self-distancing things. I mean, it's easy from, before this was mandated, it was easy for me in the shops to stand well back from the person behind me, but then I would go and pretend to have a cough, and the people behind me would move back. So that was quite an effective kind of strategy of a sort of, I'm the contrarian's contrarian.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, probably because in my experience, when I did a bit of contrarianism, it's obviously when I was a teenager with my father. He wanted me to go and study law, and which I really liked. And that was a very bad learning, because I went in to do business studies, and really, that was wrong, but hey-ho, I was young and stupid.
Hey, when I was young and stupid, I was just kind of like rock and rolling and being a DJ and that kind of thing. So young and stupid for me is on a very different kind of plane from, I mean, young and stupid for you is doing, I don't know, economics rather than business studies or this rather than that. But young and stupid for me is like, hey, a big shout out to the people at the back.
And you still are?
Yeah, I've certainly got more stupid as I've got old, but I would like to think I've got younger. But I don't know. Hello, Avni. Thank you for joining us this evening. It's great to have you along into our living room for our little Saturday evening get together with friends, which is what this is really, isn't it? It's
yes,
because
we were talking about going a bit to Lali in
yeah,
terms of too long.
Yeah. I mean, if we rewound this and compared it to the first one, we were all quite sensible and all that sort of stuff. It's whoa, but why not? And this chair that I've got here actually does that. So
it's a gamer's
chair. And I originally got this for Irma, and then I sort of seem to have hijacked it. But I just figured that the best kind of office type chair to have is one for these gamers who'll do these 20-hour marathons and on these games that I really don't understand at all, because when I was doing computer games as a youngster, I did a few. There's this little dot that would go up and down the screen like that. It's like a sort of game of ping pong, and then you'd have to move a bat backwards and forwards along the bottom and catch it, and then it would bounce off there. And that was about the state-of-the-art, cutting edge of computer games. And I was like, don't look at me like that.
Did you ever play Tetris? I used to love Tetris.
I did play Tetris, yeah. I did. And now I play it at home with furniture in the front room, so stacking it all up, and you think I'm joking, but real life Tetris is such a wonderful thing to do. So anyways, what makes some people do stuff all the same, and what makes some people go off on a bit of a different tack? I mean, I suppose that's the first thing, isn't it? And my parents were both of them kind of very straight down the line kind of people, and they there was a song actually in the early 1970s by a fella called, because I am a DJ, so sorry about that. It was called the Free Electric Band, and it was by a guy called Albert Hammond, they used to sit and speculate upon their son's career. A lawyer, or a doctor, or a civil engineer. Just give me bread and water, put a guitar in my hand, and all I need is music and the Free Electric Band. And so this is the song about a guy who just gives up that corporate lifestyle. But obviously he couldn't keep it up forever. So I would imagine, I don't know what happened to this fella, but I would imagine after sort of 3 or 4 years on the road with the guitar, he probably went back and said, Dad, about that job in the accountancy firm, is there still an opening? And I'm going to, shave my beard and put my hair nicely and wear a suit. And Dad would say, come on, son. So I dare say that is the way that these things would have played out. I wonder if Kevin remembers that song. If not, I'll play it on our rock show on Tuesday. And we've got a request in for the next one, which will bring us a new listener, which is fabulous.
Oh yes.
Somebody's posted us on Facebook where
so
they were playing an old song from back in the day, and I said, well, I'll tell you what, if you promise to listen, I'll play that on the show. So I think we'll have to bribe people one listener at a time.
Lady.
To
Yeah.
a very nice lady. We'll be bribing people one at a time to get them into the fold, because that's what it's all about.
I think it's
really.
all about community. Everything is about community nowadays. I mean, there's a lot of everybody's having lives in order to perhaps say, "Hey, I'm okay," or just to stop going mad.
Yes.
To be honest, but it's to have a bit of sense of that social reality that we need as social beings, I suppose.
Yeah. Kevin says, is it rebelling against your parents and society? Well, I think What do you think?
Oh well, like I say, I am not a rebellious person myself. I do have my very strong opinions in certain topics.
Yes.
And like I say, I make a fair assessment. But I don't, because contrarianism, I mean, I understand, if you understand the subject, in this case, property cycles and all these things you do or whatever, yes, you have your basis, and then you follow whatever the trend suits you. But for me, it wouldn't be such as contrarianism. It would be just to understand what works for you and what doesn't.
Yes. I see what you're saying there.
I'm probably wrong.
No. Now, why would you say that?
Well, I don't know, because I don't see myself as a contrarian ever. I mean, we have sometimes conversations, very interesting conversations, in which we have difference of opinions.
Oh, we do?
Yes, but we come across, we discuss them, we put them all together, and all happy.
Aha. My goodness, the most knowledgeable person that I know in the world about music doesn't know that particular song. So we will definitely play that on the rock show. It was a song they used to play a lot. See, another reason for my contrarianism is that when I grew up, radio was actually pretty good to listen to. It wasn't all on a computer, and it wasn't repeating of people saying, the world's greatest music mix, not off, and here's the next song, we'll be back in a minute after the break, and all the kind of wall-to-wall crap that is on the radio now, and I do feel very strongly about that. It was actually a bunch of guys, and they were, just a couple of years older than us. They were kids. They were like maybe 20 years old or something like that. And they had gone out to be on these ships in the middle of the sea, and they were playing the kind of music that we never heard on the radio anywhere else. And
that Radio Carolina?
That was Radio Caroline, yeah. And they were real pioneers. And at the peak of their popularity, half of the country were listening to them, including the then Prime Minister. He was listening. So but our politicians, God bless them, didn't like the fact that they couldn't control it. There was no off switch, or if there was some sort of thing that they wanted to tell to the public, they couldn't say to this radio station, "No, be good chaps and tell the public this," because the stations wouldn't have listened, and so they pursued them quite relentlessly. And close them down, and that kind of annoyed me a bit, if I'm honest.
So that indicates that it's from your upbringing that contrarianism started.
Well, it's despite my upbringing, because my parents didn't say go into the bedroom and listen to Radio Caroline. They'd say, "What are you doing in the bedroom?" And I go, "Maths homework." I go, "Oh, good." They didn't speak quite like that, but so my contrarianism was kind of despite that, but it was the fact that the cutting edge of where it was all happening was outside of my parents and the government and the schools world. It was a different kind of thing, and I was perhaps a bit eccentric, because I used to have my Radio Caroline. I used to have a little transistor radio and some earphones, and I used to walk home from school or something listening to this radio station. Everybody was kind of laughing, and now we've all got iPhones and stuff, and we're all walking around doing that kind of stuff. So in that sense, again, maybe I was a bit ahead of my time, although I do agree that it looked a bit ridiculous back then. But maybe it looks ridiculous now with everybody on their phones. I don't know. But so what I'm saying is, that one person's norm, and then suddenly later everybody's doing it. But now I've moved on. I don't even have one of those smartphone things. Imagine that. It's true. And look at the way Irma looks when I say that. That's quite an extraordinary thing, So it is something.
But you're still a bit eccentric. That hasn't changed.
Thank you so much. I take that as a great compliment. Actually,
Quirky.
it's a wonderful thing to be. I can't complain. Um, so, yeah, some of us do things in particular ways, and some of us do things a bit differently from others. And I don't think there's a right or wrong as far as this kind of thing is concerned. I think it's each to his own, really. I think it's one of the things that is better now, because very often people, when they get to a certain age, you see, that's another thing. Why is that? People say, "Oh, it was better in my day." When in my day we had flogging and all this kind of stuff, and horses used to instead of cars and what have you, and hot air balloons instead of aeroplanes. So how is that conceivably better? But people of a certain age always hark back. Is it that our memories change a bit? That we see it through rose-tinted spectacles? What do you think?
Well, I suppose we forget to be children again.
Maybe.
Yes, when you are young and you are very inquisitive, and life is a wonderful adventure to go through. But then when we grow older, we just kind of develop our personalities a bit more stronger and wired up with whatever we have in our brains. So I assume that's part of being a contrarian. In my case, I'm not a people's pleaser. Sometimes I'm a bit of a not pushover, but if something needs to get done, it just gets done. I don't see friends or foe. I just get it done as part of my makeup. In your case, it's being in a contrarian, but with substance, not just for the sake of being a contrarian, I suppose.
Yes, absolutely. Hello to AJ, hello to Daniel, and a big hello to Gillian. It's very nice to have you on board this evening. Hope things are good with you, and that you're well and safe at this kind of time of lockdown and such. Kevin points out, we were talking about these pirate radio stations. He points out that another reason why the government might not have been too happy with them, which I think is probably more of a reason than anything else, was the fact that the government wasn't getting any money from them, no license fees or revenues or anything like that, and that probably also played a part.
That makes sense.
All their businesses back then were done with big suitcases stuffed with cash. To be perfectly frank, and a big suitcase would go on the counter. Some I don't know, international drinks company or something, soft drink company would sort of walk into their office with a suitcase full of cash, hand it across the table, and then suddenly there'd be lots of adverts going out and this sort of thing. So there was an element of what do you call it? Brigandery or something, so such a word.
Yeah. What was the name of the founder?
The name of the founder was he was a lovely guy called Ronan O'Reilly, and his grandfather was instrumental in the Irish Revolution. He was one of the absolute heroes of the sort of Republican movement, and so kind of again rebellion ran through that family, I think. Hello, Sanjeev. Thank you for joining us this evening. So I suppose if you've got rebels in a sense, I mean none of them were Che Guevara or whatever, but they were certainly as in that film School of Rock with Jack Black, they say sticking it to the man. So these guys were certainly doing that, and at the very least they were an annoyance to government. And what ultimately happened with Radio Caroline is that the government many years later sent some soldiers on board, armed ones, to close it down, and then they passed a law granting themselves immunity. So that was kind of naughty, really. They shouldn't have done that. But it's this question of if you're calling the shots, then there are sort of grey areas of morality where you think that a couple of 20-year-olds playing pop records are a big threat to your authority, and that you need to send in the army to silence them. And that is a bit over the top.
I didn't think they were expecting the internet.
They didn't like it. Tim Berners-Lee, the guy who devised the internet, he went on record as saying that if governments could have foreseen how the internet had panned out, they would never have allowed it. And you see in some of the more totalitarian governments. Oh, hello, Berta in Warszawa, and also hello, Paul, up my way, the sort of culture's way. Thank you for joining us again. We had a little bit of an interruption earlier because the computer ran out of memory. Okay, so I had to turn it off and free some up. This is very Heath Robinson, this thing, but it's fun having you into our living room. And there wasn't time to do this properly, so we just got our phones propped up on books in the corner of the living room here, and that kind of thing. So please, make allowances for this, but we're going to try and do this nearly every single day. And hello, Phil. Thanks for joining us. We're going to try and do this as much as we can, nearly every single day, until life returns back to normal again, which I'm sure it will. I don't think this will go on forever, and the world will start again then, and everything will be good.
Let's hope so, because it's really, today was a bit particular day. I mean, I'm being happy. However, I feel like hurry up, find the vaccine or find something, because this is just going for too long. But hey, we make our own reality as we live day by day.
Yes. Hello, Emmanuel. Thank you for joining us this evening. Now, Emmanuel is one of about half a dozen people who will be joining me next weekend. We're going to be raising some money for the NHS, so it's a good time to do a little plug for this. It's a 3-day event where kind of speakers are going to come and talk about property and business and wealth and that kind of thing. I'm one of the speakers. Emmanuel is one of the other speakers. None of us are taking a penny. None of us are taking expenses or anything at all whatsoever. We're just going to stand up and do our bit. And this event is going to be free. It is on my timeline, so you can have a look. There's no admission charge or whatever. But all we're asking is that if you like what we do and if you're happy, then to make a donation to the NHS either through our website or elsewhere, and there's no other obligation or anything going on whatsoever. We're not going to be selling anything. There's nothing happening of that nature, and we're just going to be sharing a few of our thoughts. So it's very nice to be joined by one of my co-presenters on that one, and thank you. Hello, Carol. Thanks for joining us this evening. We were doing the little talk in our living room in 2 halves today, not just to allow Irma to go downstairs and warm up my tea and hers, but also to allow me to free up a bit of memory on the computer, which fell over because we're not a television station. We're just a couple of, I was going to say fellas, but we're a fella and his lady, or a lady and her fella in our living room. I'm spending an hour every evening chilling with friends. And that's it. And it's a wonderful sense of community. It's wonderful to feel people in our front room here having a natter, as in the normal course of events we might be doing with neighbours here or whatever, but we're able to spread the net much wider, and so Gillian, for example, is in Wales, Berta is in Warszawa, Paul's near Colchester. It's just so nice to live in a more connected world, if you like, and I hope actually this is going to continue when the lockdown's over. Maybe we'll still do some kind of regular things like this on Facebook.
I think what happens is that yes, we did have our social networks. I mean, I like networking and traveling all over the place, just meeting people, and it's fine and good. However, we through this social media we have found people from past teenage years, you name it, like that. But the people that we never really interacted. So now is the time to reminisce in those good old times and just go back to what really motivates us. Well, it helps for me is that's how it works. It just makes me discover who I was and just find that inner child again.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. And I mean, because if we were sitting here 100 years ago, I mean, 100 years ago we might have had a log fire or whatever to sit and watch or whatever. But if we were sitting here, back in the day, not being able to stay in touch with friends, not being able to do this kind of thing, not to have the sort of the feedback, not to have the sense of community with people far and wide, all of us who are suffering this same scourge that's going on, because this is a problem that affects every country on the globe, and we're all dealing with it with different levels of success or otherwise, but we're all basically facing the same problem here.
Yes, we tend to focus on the positives. However, as the pandemic advances or we don't get it under control, we get to see people that are no longer with us due to it, and it's such a sad happenings. However, we like to focus also on the positives because we believe that that's what's going to keep us going.
Yes, very much so, very much so.
As a race.
It definitely is. There's no question about that whatsoever, really. And so by being sort of upbeat and it's good for our physical health as well as for our mental well-being. I think in times of trouble, it's no use going, oh well, that's it then. There was Now, what was that? Was that in Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy? I can't remember. There was one where it was Mervyn the Paranoid Android. I think it probably was in that Douglas Adams book about this sort of grumpy one. Or there was a very funny TV show called The Young Ones some years back, where there was this kind of long-haired character called Neil, who was a sort of professional complainer, you know. And it's funny for a short time. To see that kind of thing, although I'm not sure that it would be something that we could do regularly. Hello, Michael. Lovely to see you this evening. We've got past all the sort of newsy things that we do, so let's shut this up completely and just talk about stuff. Do you know, the nearest we're going to come to the London Underground anytime soon, I think, is this. This is and we brought this down actually because it was full of biscuits, so we've been scoffing the old biscuits, and that's a little sort of takeaway bonus that we have there in the room.
I need comfort food today. Comfort food.
Best before the 31st of August, but we just couldn't wait that long. You know, so sadly, this tin, which was one of your birthday presents, actually, I thought it was a remarkably generous gesture of me to give you a whole tube train, but yeah, and I see you couldn't do that with a green screen, could you? So although we have got one now, we haven't worked out how to use it, but there are one or two things where we're going to be making some videos with friends where we might have a different background to this one, which is the real one. But if you've been with us for day one, you know what the room really looks like. And so that's a wonderful thing. And if we do videos later with a blue screen, then people will come along to see us expecting Buckingham Palace, or indeed I did one the other day where we didn't have the proper blue screen, so we did it against the wall in your office, and it looked a bit funny, a bit of a sort of halo around me. But then my friend jokingly set it into a World War II bunker.
Yes, it was cool. It's very cool.
So I came up with the idea then of hunker in the bunker, because it rhymes. So I think, do you have some more thoughts to share with us this evening about stuff?
Well, just that we need to just keep positive. I feel that for parents, I mean, being stuck at home with the children, no, they're fabulous. You know, what happens is that we need to keep them entertained, and I just have this book about confident children, and it says, understanding your child's resistance is enough to make it go away. When children resist a parent, it is often because they are wanting something else. They assume that if you just understood, you would want to support their want, wish, or need. So, understand your child and ask them to understand you. We are not born with a manual how to become parents. We just do as we go along.
That's true.
That's what I wanted to share.
And yet, you know, parents
be patient.
Parents have been parenting for millennia, so how come there is no manual? I mean, there are books, but they all seem to tell you different stuff. And it all seems to be people's opinions.
When I was expecting my two little ones, I used to buy books. I love books. That's our commonality that we have. And we both like books. And so all this is that book combines. And no, none of it. Everything was different. And even with my two children, they were both different. So there's no manual. There's no such a manual.
Well, I mean,
one fits all, no.
Yeah, because our children are different and we are different, and I suppose we have to find the balance. We have to find the right way of doing things, I guess. And now, Kevin says it would be nice with a park, a background, or a beach. Well, the video I'm going to do next week with my friend Andrew, they come out on Saturday mornings. We've decided we're going to wear sort of Hawaiian-type shirts and put some kind of beach in the background, which I think will be nice. And that will be the first test of our actual... This is an actual green screen that we're going to have, and that will be the first time we actually try it out. Green screen, for me, was always like the cutting edge of television and stuff. And when these things first came in, you could always see around the edges that there'd be a sort of bit of an effect around the edges, so you could always tell when they were using one, but it's got a lot more sophisticated now. Less so perhaps on the domestic ones that we use at home, but on the TV stations now, you just wouldn't know. And when this guy is hanging off the edge of a skyscraper or something, you think, my God, is Bruce Willis really doing that? When actually, you know, it's all done very, very cleverly.
That's right.
It looks as though you've got something in the book to finish us up today.
No, I just found this book. It's a Ruby, and it says, if you have illusions about heaven, lose them. The soul heard of one attribute of love and came to earth. 100 attributes of heaven could never charm her back. it is here the soul discovers the reality of love. So love, 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 love. That's the answer to any single predicament that we're going through. It's not that you're going crazy. It's that you need to allow yourself to give love to yourself and love to the ones around you. Sorry if I'm boring, but that's what it's all about.
Oh, absolutely so. A very good evening to Mel as well. Thank you for joining us. I mean, yeah, love is a very, very powerful thing, and from the world of ancient mythology right up to sort of modern, I don't know, science fiction type stories, there are always these stories about immortals who give up their mortality so that they can be with the one they love.
Yes.
And so it's a very, very powerful thing, and an eternity of loneliness wouldn't make up for having that opportunity to bond. It appears there are two Kevins, because another one just joined. He must have an identical twin brother, I think. And also, hello, Karen, thank you for joining us this evening on our fireside chat, I would say. Well, it's kind of fireside, except the chimneys have been taken out. This is a very old Victorian house, so it would have had a fire once. This would have been the parlour, I think they'd have called it, wouldn't they? And the servants, no doubt. I don't know. I don't think this house would have had servants, because it's not that big. And yes, Kevin says it's awesome that there are now two of him.
Yes.
Yeah, life's terribly changed, and here where we live, which is in Cambridge here in the UK, these rows of Victorian houses, and our house looks out over the car park of the railway station. And this is where we've got a front garden, and our front garden is about 3 foot wide. But this was the sort of high-ranking railway officials, so I don't know, the signalman or something, or I was going to say captain, but they're in the Navy, aren't they? So the station master or whatever, they would have had houses like this, and the lower-ranking ones wouldn't have had any sort of garden. Having said that, our front garden is very tiny. And it's as much as you can do to get 3 wheelie bins, and it's full. No room for the bicycles. So it's probably a middle-ranking guy.
Yeah. But it's easy to upkeep, which is good.
Absolutely so. And we still see a few trains. We can look out of our window and see the trains coming and going. And we have still, today we were still seeing a few arriving. And then I was looking out eagle-eyed to see if the doors would open. And these trains are kind of probably almost running empty. I guess it's only key workers on them. And so I didn't see a single. I saw not many trains pulling into the station, but I didn't see a single door open on a single train today, which is I guess a good thing, because we're all behaving ourselves and obeying the lockdown, and that's where it is at the moment. And as I say, we're going to try and share most of our days with you. Sometimes it's a bit tight, like if we're doing one of these before the rock show, I should probably allow myself half an hour to switch from sort of chilling in the chair here to spinning the tunes, because it didn't work. It didn't work last Tuesday, and the show was 10 minutes late coming on. But don't tell anybody, as a secret. So maybe we'll try and make these things run a bit more smoothly. I think I've got a talk I'm doing on Wednesday night, I think it is, of next week. So we might do this a bit earlier, because Paul asked me what time my good friend Paul Diggins, he asked me what time we come on every day, and I said 7. And ever since he asked me, I don't think we've hit 7 one single time. But that is the sort of rough intention. But imagine if the 9 o'clock news said, oh, well, it's 11:15 tonight. Yeah, well, come on now. That would be quite a...
Well, actually, news is all about negativity, so it's probably... It
is. Yeah, this is true. Good news is a timeless thing, isn't it, really? It can happen anytime, any place, anywhere. And that was a song, wasn't it? Anytime, any place, anywhere. There's a wonderful world you can share in the bright taste of the right one. And then there was a
product a DJ, name. Never a singer.
There was but that was an advertisement for a kind of drink. But we can't possibly endorse that kind of thing on here, because they're not paying us enough. Anyways, so with that, that's a rare thing, isn't it? I'm more or less out of steam. But I think we've more or less wrapped it today. Now, Kevin said, can you imagine if there was actually 2 of me? I pressed the wrong button and went back too far. I didn't want to miss out on the rest of the broadcast. That's very kind of you, sir. So there are 2 separate broadcasts tonight, because it sort of broke halfway, and so we started it and stopped it. So in the first half, I'm Mr. Angry, and in the second half, I'm Mr. Soft, or something, Mr. Softy. That was a brand of ice cream van.
Oh,
once that used to drive around.
right.
And with a nice big sort of ice cream cone on the top. But there we are, such is life. Thank you so much for your company tonight. I do hope you can join us tomorrow. It would be very nice to have you in the living room again if you got a little bit of time to spare with us. But until then, from us, it's be happy, be safe, and look out
Make
of
the
the window.
most of it.
Enjoy the sunshine maybe through the window, and if you've got a garden, go there. But please don't leave home if at all possible, because that way not only you're going to be safe, and because out of the 1,000 people who died dying, about 50 of those are youngsters with no other underlying conditions. So we're not, just because we're 21, we're not because we're 25 or 30. Well, 21 is ridiculous, but yeah, just because we're 35, 45. It doesn't mean we're not going to get this. So we need to stay safe and be happy.
Yes, it seems like it's going into a Mexican goodbye that you don't know of. In Mexican goodbyes, we are a party. We like parties and fiesta and this and the other. So when we all leave and the fiesta is finished, we just keep saying goodbye and we don't go. Goodbye and we don't go. And this is a Mexican goodbye because you've said goodbye about 3 or 4 times so far.
Good heavens above! So this is like one of these rock songs that ends and then they start again. A Status Quo were particularly good at doing that. That you'd think the song was over and then they'd come back for a reprise and another reprise. And then the crowd, if it was on stage, would sort of applaud and they'd come back and take a bow and do it again. And sometimes these things can go on for longer than the actual concert. Kevin says, take care, love you both, stay safe. Thank you so much, and I think that is the point on which we end tonight, and we'll see you hopefully at the same time tomorrow. Thank you so much for your company tonight. Right. It's been wonderful, awesome.